Welcome back to episode 2 of Creating Ritual to Change Your Frequency. We are back again this week with Ashley DuFresne to talk about how you can create rituals and change management. If you haven't listened to the first episode, I encourage you to pause this episode and go back to episode 22. All right, let's dive in.
Welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. I'm Trish.
And I'm Julie. We are two nurses exploring holistic healing and wellness practices to empower you to be the leader of your own health. Join us as we try out new things, or as we call it, weird shit, and have some fun along the way. So if you know your why and you have this intention, but you don't know exactly what that is going to feel like, how do you develop what the actual ritual is? Does the why inherently develop the actual ritual that you put into place?
Yes, it does. I'm trying to think of an example that's not fitness or health related, so we can give a different genre of trying to craft a ritual. Just to give example to that, I think that the example we could use this, we could do the health example, my mom's example. What my mom probably really wants is to feel comfortable in her body and have a sense of self acceptance and feel good, right? She thinks in order to do those, she needs this, but she's not breaking that down. Her ego is immediately associating the time that I weighed this much, I felt my best. So I'm going to do that as opposed to breaking it down where maybe her best course of action wasn't actually about diet or exercise. It may have started with mindset and journaling and shadow work and unpacking where this came from and what's happening in her life. That may have been a better ritual for that result of feeling good in her body, which then maybe eventually could have led to some other health things that could help her move there. But I'm just thinking about, again, I was a personal trainer. A lot of people come to me, I need to work out because of this. They have this. This is the thing I need to do. I also had a lot of people come to me and when they would work out, their mindset was terrible. They're like, oh, I hate this. Oh, this feels so bad. They're spending that whole hour with the worst self-talk, just feeling terrible, regretting it, just creating this experience that is, they hate this. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I'm like, let's think of something good. And you have this hour of this mindset of total despair. That's what you're creating. This is what you're investing in. You think that by working out, you're doing this. And that's when you can see the dissonance. If this thing is really what's going to help you get to your goal, you're not going to have the mindset like that because you're going to feel really good doing it because it's aligned action for your goal. Does that make sense? At least that's what I've seen as a personal trainer. The people who were, it was like, it made sense that they were working out. They were really excited to be there. They were more positive about it. When they saw progress, they were excited. They could really be there and be in it. They're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. They would have hard days for sure. Working out, there's always going to be hard days. But once they're in it, they're like, oh, I'm feeling better. Yes, this is moving in the direction I want to go. Where people who came in and it's like, I don't want to do this. And it's just this negative things. Is this really what you need to move in towards your goal? Is this what you think you need to move towards your goal?
When you have an experience like that where the person is really negative, is there such a thing as like a negative ritual that will derail you or take you down a different path? Because that's what that sounds like to me is actually you're fighting yourself. You say you're going right, but actually you're going left.
Yeah. I hate to call that a ritual, but if I look at the definition, it's like, yeah, if I look at this intentional action you're doing, but I don't know if they're intentionally doing it. I don't know if they're intentionally going, I'm going to talk a whole lot of crap to myself for the next hour. It's this unconscious thing that's happening. So I don't know if I'd call it a ritual for that aspect of it is an intentional act, but the intentional act of working out, which creates that effect, could be a negative ritual for sure. They're intentionally engaging it.
What about something professional? If you wanted to lean into something where you're going for growth or opportunity professionally, what are some rituals that people could start to lean into when they're working towards growing within their field?
What's their intention behind growing within their field? I'll start there.
There could be mastering new skills, moving beyond their current state. There could be a lot of different reasons why people want to grow within their career. They want to just advance within that skill set, move into another space. It could be about leadership, that they want to learn leadership skills. Is this question too general?
No, I'd say that's just the first step of it is asking what's the intention, because that's going to help determine the creation of the ritual. What's the intention? The next thing I would ask is if you want to develop your skills, through developing your skills, how will you feel if you were to get a promotion or develop your skills or get into a leadership position? What is the reward? Like, what are you intrinsically receiving from that experience? How do you want to feel?
You could get 100 different responses to that, depending on the
Yeah.
person and the situation.
Let's do the example of, okay, it's just hard to come up with one for if I don't know this. It's very
Sure.
nuanced. I think that's the point is that
Yeah.
rituals are pretty nuanced and it's really depends on the person and the intention because we could have the same intention of, oh, I want to progress in my career and have 1,000 different ways that can be done because everyone has a different why behind it or intention behind it. So let's say that somebody wants a promotion because they're not making enough money to sustain their lifestyle that they want. They know that if they were to get this promotion, that's going to change things for them. They want to make more money. That's the intention. The second thing is making more money, I can feel at peace because I know that I'm not just covering these things in my life, but I'm receiving the money that's needed for me to live the lifestyle that I want. I would invite them into tapping into that frequency of how they want to feel, of that like peace and that seat of their nervous system where they're calm so they can start in this example, it's money, expanding their capacity to hold more, because that's usually where it's rooted in is they believe or think that they can only hold this much money. They need to learn, like their nervous system needs to learn how to feel safe holding more. I would first start them on a ritual that's like feeling safe and actually receiving more money. From there, they will channel the idea. If I want to get a raise, I need to learn this skill. I don't know if that's necessarily a ritual to go back to school, but you could definitely make it a ritual. You could make it a ritual by every time I engage with my coursework, I think about the promotion that I'm getting and how good it's going to feel to how proud I'm going to feel to receive that promotion, how good it's going to feel to receive X amount of money each month and how safe it's going to feel or how luxuriated I'm going to feel or going on this trip. Like they can really invest in every time they go into studying and the results of what they're going to get from studying.
Ashley, what really came to mind was the intent statement that you worked with a group of us to come up with. It started with I, and it was our job to fill in the blank. I feel like that's a really great way to start, especially if someone isn't sure, A, you don't know what the actions are yet. You're not putting the cart before the horse, but it really forces you to put clear word to the feelings you want to cultivate and how you want to show up. So
Yeah.
if someone looked at that and if someone wanted to incorporate that type of ritual into their life, they're like, I'm not clear on exactly what I want things to look like, but I'm starting to get clear on how I want to show up. How would someone go about just starting some sort of statement and incorporating that into a ritual?
I feel like that statement comes after. It's a secondary step. I'm thinking about this example of the promotion. The reason why I wouldn't tell someone to start studying whatever it is that they wanted to move towards is because it may not actually be the promotion that they want. What they really wanted was to feel safe with the income that they're receiving. Potentially through that practice, they find that, wait a minute, this isn't this job that I want to be doing. I really want to be doing this thing. And I know I've just been doing this job because I felt quote unquote safe in it because it was familiar, but that's what I really want to be doing. Action doesn't come first. Like that workout examples, really get clear on what it is that you want to be feeling and what the intention is, because that's actually going to be your guide towards the action. And so I feel similarly about this intent statement. I feel like maybe we could just be like, who do I want to be? Like it has to be invoked by something, some kind of change that's happening in their life that they desire. It's easier to prompt these questions when there's a change involved, moving up in their career. Okay, I want to move up in my career. This is a change that they have happen. This is a really great place to start. Okay, who do you want to be when you make that change? And why are you making this change? Why do you want to do it? Who do you feel like you're going to be in that? Great. Maybe you can create a statement then on that version of you. So then you can break that down and become that version of you now, because that's ultimately what you want. And maybe that will bring you to that that raise or that moving up in your career, or it might lead you somewhere else. It doesn't matter. It might keep you in the same place, but what you really want is the state of being, potentially, unless, of course, you use that last example, but we're starting with the who, that in the example of the intent statement. It's your intent of who you're becoming. And so through that, we create a reality. It starts with us.
What I'm taking away from this is that if there's something that I want to work towards, I really have to sit down and figure out why I want to make this change. Ask myself the 5 whys that Trish and I talked about in a previous episode to really get down to the root of why I'm actually wanting to make the change. But then I also have this pull of I want to write down a description of what that looks like, what that feels like, to really start to identify what embodying that change would be. That's just me personally. That would help prompt me to figure out if I want to start embodying something different, what does that look like? What does that feel like? How does that show up? From there, you could develop that intent statement. And then from the intention statement, start to come together with what is that ritual? Does that make sense? Am I on the right track?
Yes, you are. I don't necessarily think you need to have the intent statement in order to craft the ritual. I think all of that up until the intent, you can definitely add the intent, and that takes a much deeper, it's a much more clear path to making change. I think the intent statement is a way to totally change your entire life. If you're ready for a big change, that's the direction to go, is definitely do the intent statement and then craft rituals from that intent statement. But if there's just this one thing that you want to be changing, I think you could just move from, I love your breakdown there. Yes, all of those steps. And instead of doing the intent statement, just move into crafting a ritual for that original thing that you want to change on. Yes, so well said. Beautiful.
I'd like to pare things down to steps, helps me not get distracted and tend to go down a wandering path. I think that's part of when I've tried to do sustained change, I do get distracted. And so having a way to really make it very clear and concise for me to, when I start to wander, I can just pull myself back to that one place. Do rituals help anchor you to that path?
Yes, that's the whole intention of it. That's the entire intention of it. It anchors you to that path and anchors you to the frequency that you're desiring to step into. That's the power of it. As a ceremonialist, as a rites of passage guide, I usually guide people to craft rituals based off their ceremony. They created this big change in their ceremony. As we recap the last episode, a ceremony marks transition, emphasizes change. From that ceremony, you mark that transition, emphasize this new change. What was the experience from that? What did you feel? Who were you after? All of these questions. And then from there, from that change, you can then break it down. I'm going to use my client, for example. She had the ceremony where she ran to the beach and then sang at the water. And this is a really big thing for her because she's declaring that she's going to be a public speaker. Like, she wants to be on stage. She's writing a book. And this is a really big move because she was so scared of even being heard. For her to be running and singing the song out that channeled through her around her bigness, that was so significant. In her ritual to anchor this new frequency in, she goes to the ocean with the shell she got from the ceremony, and she sings a song that channeled through her about owning her bigness. And that is this ritual that she crafted based on the frequency that she was able to access in her ceremony, in the transition she marked, that she's able to reconnect with that experience every single day and anchor into it more and more. So ceremonies are wonderful. And also, without a post plan, like an integration plan, it can end up just being this fluffy moment in time where it was really cool and all, but nothing changed. Change comes through consistent action. The rituals are the way to actually bring that change into your everyday life. And as Trish said, eventually it just becomes natural. It's going to be easy for her to be speaking on stage. Maybe she'll even be singing. I don't know. It's going to be so natural because she anchored into this every single day for X amount of time until it felt, yeah, wow, this almost feels boring. This is just normal. Like, this is who I am now. This is how I show up in my day.
That's pretty cool. It sounds, for that example, that just came together in and of itself. When I hear the word ritual, I feel like that's supposed to be something fancy. There's supposed to be some big fancy thing that happens for a ritual. But what I'm hearing you say is not necessarily.
No, it's just intentionality. I'd say it can be so simple. It can be so simple. In fact, I think the more simple it is with intention, the better. It's often when it's all these moving pieces and we're like, oh, we got to do that. When it's bigger, we're less likely to do it. Trish mentioned that voice of resistance. When something is more complex, more grandiose, more, ooh, this whole thing, where, oh, we got to do that whole thing. Like, how long is that going to take? I don't have time for it. I don't want to do it. But if it's so simple, like a breath, it's easier to step into. We could potentially be using behavioral momentum to help us step into this thing because it's that simple that we don't have to go through all these steps or jump through all these hoops in order to even do the ritual. This is it. It's just this. Yeah, but it makes sense. I like totally, when you say that, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like a lot of people think that about rituals. Oh, it's this fancy thing. It's gotta be this whole, and we look at religious ceremonies and the rituals inside those, and they are pretty complex. Okay, they grab the cup, but then they whip it down, and then they do this prayer, and then they do these 3 bows, and then it's this very long ritual. And there is power in that too. But for something that's a daily thing, we want it to be very simple so we can be consistent with it. So it's like rituals inside ceremonies are going to look very different than rituals that we engage in every single day.
You talked about ceremony before, and now we're talking about ritual. Do you build your rituals or do you sustain your rituals over time to build up to the ceremony, or sometimes ceremony comes first for that
Ceremony
transition?
usually comes first. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like kind of the moment that you declare that you want to change and you're like really stepping into and marking this transition of I am no longer this. I am this. An example, I think we talked in the last episode about me being a channel and a medium. I was terrified of my gifts. I pushed them away for so long. I remember battling with this for it was like 5 years. Yeah, because I was 20, yes, 5 years of, okay, I'm ready. And then something would happen and I'd be, oh my God, I'm so scared. No, never mind, never mind, never mind. I'm not actually ready. Don't listen to me. And it would be this back and forth with my guides or with like spirits. It wasn't until I held a ceremony and I went out, did a solo and I declared who I was. I am a channeler. I am ready for this. I am capable and able to handle this. And I marched that transition out somewhere I've never been, declared who I was going to be. It was from that moment on that I was like, yeah, this is just who I am. Then I created rituals from there to start feeling safe in channeling so that when things would happen, like if something quote unquote scary happened, I felt its presence instead of my typical trauma response of running away, panic mode, dissociating. I called in my guides for protection, took a deep breath in, called them in, ground, and then put up a shield. That was my ritual. Or connecting with my guides every day in conversations. I created these rituals from that experience to anchor in the change that I wanted. But the ritual or for the ceremony does come first. That gets to really mark that transition for us.
Did you get to a point where you celebrated that change? Because you had your ceremony, you made your declaration, then you did your rituals. But then after a while, you came to a new place, right? You actually embodied and stepped into that different frequency. So did you celebrate?
That's a really good question. I celebrated in the ceremony of being able to even declare that change like that. That's a part of ceremony. The end of it is the celebration aspect. That's the incorporation celebration. I'm certain that I have. I can't think of it now because it was a long journey of really, truly feeling safe. But I think it was something that I got to celebrate. I think like every time I like was able, I would extend gratitude. Every time I was able to be present when a spirit came in without freaking out and like calling in protection, working like, oh my God, I did it. It was like all these moments of the celebrating, of just, I could see the change happening. Those moments were of celebration. And I was really present for that. I'm glad that you brought this up because I think when we're not present for that, things just go by and then we create this change, then we want this next thing. It was such a big deal for me that when I was able to do these things I wasn't able to do before, in those moments of, oh my God, I feel like I did it. Or the next day, oh my God, that happened. And I was fine. I was able to sleep or like I would celebrate, if not immediately, like within the next 24 hours, like noticing the slight changes and being able to be in that. So I think that's a great question. Should I hold another ceremony that's just a celebration? Maybe. I don't see why not. I think ceremonies just we can't overdo it if
I
we're
think it
intentional with it.
I think it brings you have a really good point there that you should, if you are present within your rituals, then you should recognize when it feels different and to actually take that moment to celebrate it, to recognize it. And that doesn't necessarily have to be this big naked swimming in the ocean moment, unless that's really something you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It could just be recognizing that you've responded in a different way. You made a good choice for yourself, or you showed up in a meeting differently that inspired true change, or you advocated for people. Whatever your thing is, just having that presence in that moment and recognition, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. To celebrate it when you notice it. Yes. Because that reinforces change. That's like this continuous reinforcement of change. Is that a little ceremony itself? Yeah, I guess so.
Lots of ceremonies, just over and over again.
I just live in ceremony every day.
Maybe to help pull you along faster. Maybe it
I
moved you
really
to that
believe so.
place. Yeah.
I genuinely, from my experience, not just my personal life, but with what I've seen in my students and my clients, ceremony and rituals really do help move you along quicker. It is like the fast track to change. Period. I've not seen anything substitute it. It is.
I can't deny that.
I've witnessed miracles because of it. It's yeah, nothing
How many
compares.
ceremonies do you hold for yourself in a year? I'm just curious.
So every year is different. The last couple of years have been pretty challenging for me. I've gone through a lot of change. And I've held, I guess if I look back, that's a really good question. I have smaller ceremonies and then I have bigger ceremonies. So bigger ceremonies, I might hold one every 5-10 years. One of the big ceremony of declaration or whatever it is. Those ones are more rites of passage, death and rebirth, like becoming. And those don't happen all of the time, although we're always changing. Those don't happen all the time. And grateful for that. Don't want that much change in my life. But I hold ceremonies for different times of the year to honor and mark change, like the solstice. I will usually hold either one or both for myself, depending on the year. I probably hold, that's great. No one's ever asked me that. I'm between 5 and 15, I think would be a good range. Probably not 5, probably 10 and 15 ceremonies a year, realistically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They won't be this big grandiose thing. Like I said, not going to be like my multi-day thing of this or,
Not like wearing. Okay.
yeah, it's not going to be like the rites of passage ceremony of becoming, but like I hold ceremonies for people when I've lost friends, hold a ceremony for them, or my business is changing. I'm going to hold a ceremony for that. Anything that I'm marking transition in or I'm emphasizing change. My grandfather passed this year, so holding a ceremony there. Moving, I hold a ceremony there. I hold ceremonies for cleansing my space even. Okay, I am imprinting a new frequency in here. I'm marking change here. Something happens. I don't know. I lived in a place where I had a roommate last year. Now I live alone, so it's a little bit different, but somebody moves out, marking that transition. Okay, what does it look like now that their energy's out in the space? What is I'm claiming for this next chapter? They aren't necessarily these big grandiose, okay, I'm fasting for 4 days and going out in the mountains and then I'm doing ayahuasca. It's not necessarily like that. They might take 2 to 4 hours, but they are emphasizing the change. They're really reinforcing the change that I want to be making in my space, in my life, in my relationships. And I find it very helpful.
Yeah, I like the idea of ceremony and ritual don't necessarily have to be some great big thing, but it could even be just thinking about my kids, the end of the school year, marking the end of the school year and what the summer is going to be like. You could make it fun. It doesn't necessarily need to be so serious.
Yes. And the more fun, the better. There's a time and place for the serious stuff, but ceremony is meant to be engaging. And the more playful we make it, the more likely we're going to be engaged in it. When we're happy, we are more receptive. We actually do want to be more playful. And there are the challenging moments. And I say those are important for rites of passage ceremonies because challenge expands capacity. If you're trying to expand your capacity, it's important to have challenge, but we don't necessarily need that in all change and transition that's being marked or that's happening, right? Celebrating the end of the year is great. What an awesome idea. It's an opportunity for them to reflect on the last year and what they're calling in for the next or how they want to celebrate or what they want to do over the summer. That's brilliant. I love that.
When we finished nursing school, we decorated our scrub tops and strung them across the street between the hospital and the School of Nursing. Then somebody had the idea that we should burn our student scrubs. And it was like, yeah, let's do that. Unfortunately, they were mostly polyester. So it didn't work out as well as we had hoped. But
I
the
can see
intention was
the
there.
severance there.
We had We had the intention. We were no longer going to be students, and now we were going to become professional registered nurses.
I love that. Oh my gosh. It's really funny. It's wonderful. What an awesome way of marking transition. Yes.
Sounds like a lot more fun than the pinning ceremony.
Yes.
Yes, it was a lot more fun.
And it's rememberable. For that in your mind, as you're describing it, is the moment that you're no longer a student and you're now registered nurse. That's a big deal where you probably didn't think about when you're getting a pin is the moment that I am no longer a student. No, it was you created your own ceremony. And that to you is what stuck in your mind that created that change. That's the point of ceremony.
On that note, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on board today and for revisiting ceremony and going in further depth on rituals and the importance of creating an emotion and diving into our why before moving forward into our next endeavor so we can ultimately achieve what we truly desire. Before we close out, can you let us know where we can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. That's where I hang out most. My Instagram is the Ashley DuFresne. I'll spell it TheAshleyDufresne. That's where I mostly hang out. I have a Facebook. I'm never really on it. If you want to hang out with me and connect more and chat, follow me on Instagram and DM me. I'm someone that will send you a voice message. I like to voice message people. It's just way more personal and way more fun than just a message. So feel free to reach out and let's chat.
Thanks, Ashley. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with a friend. Want to learn more about a specific topic? Drop us a line on our website and we can explore it deeper with you.